welcome to the PhD podcast, a podcast discussing all things PhD life and progressive ideas to create a way forward in academia that's more inclusive, equal, and diverse. You are tuned into episode 3, and I'm your host, Dr. Ruth. Now, if you're new to this channel, a very, very warm welcome to you all, and to my returning listeners, thank you from a grateful heart. Don't forget to join in on the dialogue and conversation by engaging with us on all of our socials. We're a global interactive forum for all PhD students, early career researchers, and academics around the world to come together, share experiences, learn and draw inspiration from each other. So you can connect with us on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at the PhD Podcast. We'll be happy to hear from you. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, as we would like all of our listeners to get the most value from our platform, and you will be the first to receive notifications of future content. We also have our own website, which is www.thephdpodcast.com. So, with formalities over, you already know the phrase, let's dive in. Okay, so today is a very special day, so we are providing you with a very special broadcast. Now, today is the 21st of May 2020, which is the World Day for Cultural Diversity for Dialogue and Development, also known as International Diversity Day. Round of applause, please. This is a day that the United Nations has sanctioned as an international holiday for the promotion of diversity issues. It is a day that provides us with an opportunity to deepen our understanding of the values of cultural diversity. So, what do we mean by cultural diversity? Well, the term basically refers to appreciating the cultural differences in individuals and groups and having respect for each other's differences. Now, this includes understanding the qualities that are different from your own and outside the groups to which you belong. Now, these can also include, but not limited to, our protected characteristics, such as age, disability, sex, marital or parental status, your race, your religious belief, income, or educational background. But finally, and most importantly, it is important to acknowledge that categories of difference are not always fixed, but they can also be fluid. So it's important that we respect individual rights to self-identification and recognize that no culture is superior to another. Now, for the purpose of this episode, I'm going to focus on what it means to be culturally diverse in academia in terms of race and gender, and how we can ensure our leadership is diverse, and finally, what you can do on an individual level to show cultural diversity. So, question of the day. So the question of the day for me is, why is it so hard for universities to diversify their faculty? Well, I came across a book called Inclusive Academia, Achieving Diversity and Excellence. I'll put the link to the book in the tagline on all of our platforms that we're on, but it was written by two highly esteemed professors in the United States, Professor Abigail Stewart and Professor Virginia Valian. And they relay the fact, basically, that many universities do embrace the idea of diversity and inclusion in theory, but in reality, many fall short. And this is amplified in scenarios such as the hiring process, retention of staff, and the advancement of faculty, in particular for people of colour and women. Now, talking diversity and equality in the UK, I find that it is often ignored. Even more so, this is evidenced by statistics. Now, did you know that according to a BBC report in 2018, Black and minority ethnic staff at Russell Group universities face an average pay gap of 26% less compared to their white colleagues? Now, for our international listeners out there, a Russell Group university is basically deemed to be a prestigious or highly selective university, and it's usually based on the quality of their research and teaching standards. It's sort of similar to an Ivy League university in the United States. So here we have what is called an ethnicity pay gap. Even far more worrying is the fact that female academics are worse off, with an ethnicity pay gap on top of a gender pay gap. Now, you guys, you already know, and we already know, it is well known that there is a lack of women in certain fields in academia, and the data shows that black women in particular experience a gap of 39% less for doing similar work to their white counterparts. Now, this is extremely shocking because it shows that you are not valued and that it is not an equal playing field. I think, personally speaking, higher education institutions in the UK should take a leaf out of the book I just mentioned, because the authors also offer recommendations for overcoming obstacles in order to change structures and practices that will benefit everyone. And I, for one, certainly believe that academia would benefit immensely if it was fully representative of the world that we live in. Now, we are all aware of the structural and institutional inequalities at the heart of the UK university system. So, what can we do to ensure that our leadership is diverse and reflective? I think there is scope to think differently here, because our country, our workplaces, schools, and higher education institutions are becoming more intrinsically culturally diverse. And so we can learn from one another, but first we must have a level of understanding about each other in order to facilitate collaboration and cooperation. But most importantly, learning helps us to dispel negative stereotypes and personal biases about different groups. And this will in turn help us to build bridges of respect and understanding across cultures. Now, ways to promote diversity in academic leadership can include offering training for senior academics and decision makers so that they can realize that universities should be a microcosm of the total society. Secondly, interview panels themselves should be diverse. And lastly, initiatives such as reverse mentoring between BAME and non-BAME academics can help, as they provide a lens in which to create real cultural transformation. So, Podmates, let us know what your university is doing to become more culturally diverse. Tag us at the PhD Podcast or hashtag us on Twitter. We'd love to hear from you. Now, as you know, the PhD Podcast is a progressive platform, and we are a hub for progressive solutions. So, we have come up with a few tips for you on this special day for what you can do on an individual level to promote cultural diversity. You see, it's important for everyone to play their part. We all have a shared responsibility on an individual level, on an institutional level, and system-wide. So, here are our tips. Number 1, try to increase your level of understanding about other cultures by interacting with people outside of your own culture. How can you do that, you might think or say? Well, I know some workplaces are having online coffee mornings over Zoom, and within Zoom you can also have little breakout sessions, and this is a perfect opportunity to speak to someone you may not usually speak to. I love that. I love to see that workplaces are being more progressive about diversity. Secondly, try to avoid imposing your own values on others, as this is likely to cause conflict. So try your best not to do that. Try to be mindful about that. Thirdly, be proactive in listening, accepting and welcoming people and ideas that are different, completely different from your own. But most importantly and lastly, and I've said this before on episode 2, intervene. Intervene in an appropriate manner where possible. We don't like lukewarm at the PhD Podcast. So when you observe others engaging in behaviours that show cultural insensitivity or bias or prejudice, make sure you speak out respectfully, should I say, as it is all for the greater good. Okay, so an interesting topic we've discussed today. Please let us know your thoughts on all of our socials at the PhD Podcast. We'll be excited to engage with you on all of our platforms and to facilitate discussions around the world. Please share with your family, your friends, and your support systems. If you could also do us a favor and give us a thumbs up on YouTube and rate our podcast on Spotify, what that will do is enable others to find our content too. So also just an FYI, later today at 5 p.m, the BBC, LinkedIn and the United Nations are teaming up together to discuss diversity inclusion issues through this pandemic. So don't forget to tune in. So once again, happy International Diversity Day. I'd love to leave you all with a final quote from Malcolm X. As many of you know, he was a popular figure during the civil rights movement in the United States. So, quote, "We need more light about each other. Light creates understanding. Understanding creates love. Love creates patience. And patience creates unity." End quote. Such a beautiful quote to leave you all with. So you've been tuned in to the PhD Podcast with your host, Dr. Ruth, and I wish you all peace, love, and light. Stay safe and see you in the next episode.